So it'll change the show up a little bit, because one of the things we wanted to talk about the history, and I still can, and I will, but some of the really early history, I wasn't there for. So from 2000, I'd say it was more like 2009 when I started to get involved. I moved here in 2007. Anyway, we'll save that for when we're actually rolling.
Facebook is ready if you're ready.
Okay. You ready? Do you have good something to drink? Turned off your phone.
Clear.
I've turned off my phone, but he can join us, and I'll just let him in if he does.
All right.
Okay. Thanks. Oh, and so Solomon meet Richard. Did I do that before?
I think you did.
Yeah,
I think
the very
did.
beginning.
Good. Okay, just checking. Okay, so I think we're good.
So this first thing you have to do is flip the switch. Is the light on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, put the clapper in front of your face. When you hit the clapper, you're on the air.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Interfaith Peace Network, being produced here at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future, thanks to our great producer, Richard Wicca. So I'm very excited for our inaugural show. Hi, Richard. For our inaugural show, this is the first Talking Peace that is with the Interfaith Peace Network, and I'm very excited that Solomon Joseph has joined us. Hi, Solomon.
Hello, Vicki. Hello, Richard.
So we talked about this a while ago. So Solomon, we were at an Interfaith Peace Network meeting where we started talking about the radio show. And first, I want to introduce you properly. And you have such a long list of things that you're doing, and I'm sure that doesn't include everything. But I would just say Solomon is the founder and editor of the Latino Village.
No, not the founder.
Oh, not the founder. Okay,
no, I joined the Latino Village. Has been going on since 2017. Earlier, it's been changing names, but the founder of that is Alberto O. Capas.
Oh, okay. Well, I knew he was very connected with it. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah, when it actually started being, because it really came on the scene, in a very beautiful way when you started to produce it. But anyway, so as well as Manifest Destiny, that's the one where you're the
diversity, manifest
diversity. Right,
yes.
right. So we certainly have diversity as a key element. So manifest diversity, and then also your work at the office of the president of Buffalo State College, where as graduate assistant you're working on, again, diversity, right?
Yeah, equity and diversity.
Equity and diversity.
It's a department within the president. So the president has a bunch of initiatives and offices, and that's one of the offices. So it's not the only office, where you have other administrative work, but this is one of the key offices of diversity and equity, headed by the chief diversity officer, which is Crystal Rodriguez Daphne.
Right.
Now she's married now.
Right. Actually, I just saw her during the election. People get busy over the election, so I think I can say that safely enough. But anyway, so I would just say, maybe to get us started off, well, first of all, you've done all that, plus you're a dad, you're a new dad, and, and we're just, I'm just so thrilled to have you on the show. And before we get into some of the history and perspective, et cetera, I'd love to ask you, what are the values that you think of when you think of, especially the Interfaith Peace Network? What values do you want to uphold as we're having this talk?
The values of tolerance, compassion, and empathy.
Absolutely. So important. And especially when we're I thought one of them that you might say is diversity. And of course, that is, in some ways, I think it's implied, because that compassion, especially when it's compassion, that it's about the person's situation. So it's not about your situation. So it's a different situation, and that's diverse. That's, they have their situation. Right. And so you're thinking of that. So I'm going to say, it's very much makes me think of truth and love, which is one of the things. We were just talking about truth in our immediately previous show. how important truth is. And truth, back to diversity, it looks different to different people. So I love the Tao of conversation when you share your truth and we come to a fuller understanding of truth. And of course, love. Of
Yeah.
course, love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love makes the world go round, right? And in
Yeah.
so many ways, it's all about that. So I want to ask you, what made you first be interested in the Interfaith Peace Network?
Well, when I moved to Buffalo in 2018, I was
Mm-hmm.
really getting to know the city and the diversity in it and the different type of multi-ethnic and multi-faith groups out there. And, I've studied world religions, not only in college, but, in my own personal time. I have friends whom I've interviewed about their religion because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to really understand religion. So that's really my backstory. And then in Buffalo, I wanted to really seek out organization. I was happy enough to find the network of religious communities when I was driving, I think down Delaware, and I was passing by the International Institute, and it caught my interest. And then, I think we've met over an event.
I'm
It had to
trying to
be at
remember how we met.
yeah, it must have been an event
I'm sure.
where we exchanged information and you introduced yourself and gave me the card of the Western New York Peace Center. And, from there we emailed and talked and got to know each other.
Ah,
And really, I credit you for, bringing me into the first meeting we had, the network of religious communities in person pre-COVID. And that was, really my first impression of really understanding how, an interfaith group can come together and work together. And I think that's really, what got me involved.
oh, I just want to introduce Faizan Haq. Faizan, assalamu alaikum. And we'll be hoping that
Walaikum assalam.
every day is a busy day. I just need to let Richard know so he can help set this up a little bit. Uh, that you've joined us. So
Assalamu
I just want to
alaikum,
keep.
Faizan, Mr. Huck. How are
Yeah.
you?
So
How are you,
meet
sir? I
each
haven't
other.
seen you in a long time.
I
How's everything
know
with
it's
you?
it's been a while. I've been since we met. I became a dad, and I've just did my first year at grad school at Buffalo State.
So we just started off with. I want to ask you if you want to bring in a value into the room with us as we have this discussion. And this is the inaugural show of the Talking Peace with the Interfaith Peace Network. So, is there a value you want to share before we really get started? As we are getting started.
Vicky, are you asking me?
Yes, I am. Yeah, because
Oh,
we already
I'm so
shared some
honored. Thank you,
values.
thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm sorry that
So,
we got started. I wasn't sure because it's so many things going on. I wasn't sure that maybe something else had come that was too
yeah,
pressing.
actually, what I think that when I got involved in IPN, it was, I believe, 2003,
Mm-hmm.
and it was on backdrop of 9/11 and the Iraq War.
Right.
And I dedicatedly went to the meetings, and we did so many things up to, I believe, I was involved in about 2006 or 2007, and then I on and off.
Right.
And I think the values that we all have to follow is, number one, learn to listen to each other. Listening is a value
Right.
in its own right, because anything and everything else, including tolerance and all that start afterwards, listening is a very, very important thing. And that is, for me, it is always a value, and it's something that is practiced by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as well, to listen to other people. And the second thing, which also from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is that that is to sympathize with people who are suffering. Even if it is an animal, if it is a living thing, don't even cut the trees and destroy the crops when you are in war. So, and that is sympathy is a very, very important value
Thanks.
for me. And if you listen and if you sympathize people, then the third value is automatically is there, which is our greetings, assalamu alaikum, peace to you all, because this is how the peace starts. So it is the beginning, is the prerequisite, and this is why we greet assalamu alaikum, greetings to you all. So I'm very grateful for you to be part of our lives and taking the lead on this, and thank you for inviting me. I apologize, I was a little late because I had to finish another Zoom meeting,
I know.
which was actually about
Relentless.
participation and activism. You know, we are always working. We are 24/7
Yes, we
kind
are.
of people. So I passed it back on to you, but thank you so much.
So I would only say, I'm so glad you said listening, and it makes me think of, the interfaith. I've been saying I've done so many things as, as the director of the Peace Center when I was the director at the Western New York Peace Center, and would bring Interfaith Peace Network in with it, right? Because they're both part-time, and I mean very part-time, 20 hours and 5 hours was supposedly what I was doing, supposedly. But so one of the things that we're still doing, and I am still part of, and the Interfaith Peace Network is still a partner in Camp Peace Prince. And so Camp Peace Prince, one of the things that I've been asked to do there is in the first day when we're making the peace agreement, before the peace agreement actually, to share with them, with the campers, 8 to 13-year-olds, the Chinese character for listening. Because the Chinese character, it has your eyes, it has your ears, very important, both of them for listening. It has your undivided attention, it has you, and it has your heart, right? So it's just a very beautiful way of describing listening. And I love it that you started off with that progression, that the listening leads to the compassion, and the sympathy and empathy, and then to the peace and the peace that we share with each other. And also you came right into the second question, was we were talking about what got people involved in the Interfaith Peace Network. So, and I know, and so going into that part, as you say, it really started with the run up to the war in Iraq, when so many things happened, so many things changed for people. And the Interfaith Peace Network has really started with that. Very much so. As I understand, there was a Peace Yearnings event. There was a lot of community building around, trying to stop the war. And of course, the largest, I wonder if it's still the largest. It might be the largest single day. That, although I think one of the women's marches might have surpassed, I don't know. But certainly that February 15th, there was a huge international outpouring of trying to stop the war. And so I'm guessing it was right, in lead up to that, that it would be something, and that it was the community, the religious community coming together to work on peace issues. And Solomon, you mentioned the network of religious communities, which I think we've all been a part of a little bit, more or less. Certainly I've been on a part of the Board of Governors. And I remember when I first went there, the Interfaith Peace Network is a member of the network of religious communities, and so are lots of different religious groups, denominations, congregations, etc. And I said, I'm here with the Interfaith Peace Network. And I also, as I said, Holy Trinity later on. But I came first with the Interfaith Peace Network, and they said, and when I said they said, well, what is that? And when I said what it was, working on peace issues, in an interfaith way, they said, we thought that's what this is. Well, it sort of is, but it also sort of isn't, because the Peace Center, that the Interfaith Peace Network works so often with, will really take a bold move and pretty much the only groups that are in there that are part of the Interfaith Peace Network want to actively work for peace. So people may feel that they want peace, or they may feel that just even talking about anything other than your personal situation is beyond what they want to do. So you have all different kinds of groups in the network of religious communities, and sometimes they will do a thing. If everybody can agree and you have enough lead time, then maybe you will do it. And there's a lot of great work that gets done. There's a lot of great sharing, a lot of great events or initiatives, but they will, it's a product of the way it's structured, what they will or won't do. And the Interfaith Peace Network is very much more ready, would you not say, Faizan, to stick its neck out, to, be involved in something that might be a little more controversial, let's say.
I think that IPN and network of religious communities have worked very hard to be very inclusive and
Absolutely.
to get those voices included, which are usually either ignored or labeled and shelved away. So IPN has been very bold, and I must say they've been very bold. Specifically, I don't know if you remember Quran 55, when 55 Qurans were burned by this person in the South, and we all got
Right.
together
Yes.
at Bidwell, and we distributed Qurans for 55 minutes, and it was an amazing event that has left a great impact on me.
Well, I'm certainly not meaning any disrespect on the network of religious communities, that they, and I could say we, as the network of religious communities too, will, have taken a bold stand and have stood up in very significant ways. Also was a key partner along with the Western New York Peace Center and Western New York Muslims and the Federation of Just Communities, and of course MPAC as well. That was one of the first big gatherings that was a protest. Do you remember that one? I'm trying to remember exactly what had happened. I don't remember exactly. Something had happened, and it was like, we're all Muslims now. Because the Islamophobia, it was really to counter the Islamophobia. Do you remember that one? That was the first
Yes.
really large gathering in Niagara Square in my memory since I moved to Buffalo in 2007. So that was very good, and that was the network. So the network, it's just that the network is not very, it's not organized to do something quickly or to do something if you have members who don't agree. You know what I mean? So it tends to be, if it's, when it's really needed, there it will come. But one of the biggest things is it's a venue for people to get to know each other better, to do the interfaith sharing, and to have different classes so that people could go to find out about the different religions, where the Interfaith Peace Network has done some of that work, remember the Better Know a Muslim?
Yeah.
Also during that is the period of extreme Islamophobia.
Actually, network of religious communities I consider it a home from where we go and we get heard, and all children are invited and everybody gets a seat.
Right.
And then a consensus, an attempt to build consensus where we kind of come out with a statement. Sometimes we don't, but at least everybody's heard. And from
Sure.
there on, then like-minded people, as we do in IPN, they find a way, they find a voice.
Right.
But I don't think we will be even having a conversation with IPN unless we had NRC.
Oh, sure. It's much bigger. It's much more established. It's very old, whereas the IPN just came along, as you say, in those years that were leading up to the war. In the is it 2002 or something like that. Whereas the network of religious communities was established in, I think, as much as 100 and certainly over 100 years ago. I think we had some that it was 100 and I couldn't say how much more than 100, but I want to say 160, but it could be that it's only 130 or 120, something like that. But anyway, everybody has there's so many different pieces and parts. And I know even with manifest diversity that Solomon is working on, now that you have, that's about different faiths and diversity of culture and faith, right? Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
So now, so you were starting to say why. So it's your interest in that drew you to the Interfaith Peace Network, would you say?
Yes, I mean, it definitely is of interest and along the lines of my work because not only have I become a multicultural educator,
Mm-hmm.
it's really about bringing in all the pieces, not excluding
Right.
any piece out because,
Absolutely.
and I want to bring up a point because, I am from Pakistan as well, but my family is Christian,
Mm-hmm.
in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this is a great time to converse with Dr. Huck, about the situations and the things that people don't know. Many people, about 90% of the time, people don't know that there are Christians in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
and and that really after 9/11, that's when my eyes became open because I was born and raised in New York City, and people did not know where Pakistan was. They thought it was some exotic island, but after that, people became aware that it is a country that exists and the history of that. And unfortunately, the media has been very negative about Pakistan, and that was my first dose of discrimination and racism, which was never taught to me or brought to light until the media presented it in a negative light, and my family was affected, and I lost an uncle in the towers
Mm.
as well.
I'm
So
so.
it was really personal for me, but the
Mm-hmm.
conversation has been developing a lot over the time, and I think it's misinformation and miseducation. That's why I became an educator, and I think that there's a lot of work to be done, in terms of helping people understand why, and I think the generalizations and the stereotypes that has been carried on, from family to family, friend to friend, mouth to mouth, I think it harms society. So
Right.
I think this is a great organization and a great platform, to meet others, to converse, learn from each other, and really connect to tell the full story, not just partial.
Well, it's so important to be sharing and getting to know each other. I think that's one of the big things. So, it's not like only the controversial acts or events or campaigns are needed, but that slow, we need all of it. That slow familiarity, increased familiarity, and especially starting from, that's why I was talking about camp, starting with children, before they, as they get to know people and get to know about the world and the diversity in the world, in culture, in faith, and the similarities. So the similarities and the differences that we all have. It's so exciting to see that for them, it isn't hard. It isn't hard to feel, excited and interested in everything in all the different ways. And, sometimes I feel that we're further along than we really are because of the people that I know. And there's so many people where it's so obvious. And then there's some people where it hasn't been so obvious, or where fear has been, fomented or stirred up, or just the fear is there because people are afraid of the unknown. So if you don't know if you've never met anybody with a certain background or a certain uh, faith tradition, then it's scary just because the fear of the unknown is so big. And that's where actually Buff State, I would say, is a place where, not only is there the Office of Diversity, that the president's office has this special project on equity and diversity, but also you're teaching there at Buff State. Now, tell us more about your teaching at Buff State, Professor Hawk, please.
Thank you so much. And the Solomon, I just wanted to first take the opportunity to invite you. We are having an event on August 15th, the Pakistan Day. I
Oh,
don't know if you're aware
really?
of that.
Yes, I'm on the WhatsApp group, and I
Oh,
did.
good. Oh,
So you,
good.
so you got that?
Yes, yes, I was at the event. I think the year before, I think 2019. When we had
Right,
it at the auditorium, and that's where actually we reconnected.
right.
Uh,
So,
Well,
so
please send it
actually,
to
I
me
was
too.
wondering. So August 15th, please mark on your calendar, Vicki, and everybody who's listening. It's going to be in Island Park in Williamsville. We are having an Eid Carnival, and we are also having a Pakistan Day celebration because it's August 15th. It is August 14th, 15th is India, but doesn't matter. We all got liberated from the
right.
British. That's a good thing.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so we are celebrating this, and Solomon, you have to come and you
Yes,
have to help us out to invite people, more
sure,
people, more.
sure.
I want at least I want that place packed completely with different people.
That's
And
why they'll
Vicky, you
call
got
it
to make sure that you
Pakistan.
come on August 15th.
Did you hear my bad
No,
joke?
no. What did you say?
I said that's why they call it Pakistan. You want it to be packed.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, exactly. And we are also what we are doing is we will like to when I'm teaching my students, I'm kind of hooked on three things. I always talk about 3 points and 3 lessons and 3 values.
Ah,
So there are 3 things that I teach my students. One thing which I tell them is the most, and these are 3 principles which they have to repeat throughout the semester, and I call them Faizan's golden principles of intercultural communication. So the first one is the most important conversation is the one that you have with yourself. And we are having all these conversations in our heads. As I'm speaking right now, Vicki and Solomon, both of you are having conversations, and the people listening, things are going on in your mind. I got to do this. I got to say this. I'm thinking about this. The images are forming. And those conversations have to be shared and challenged. When those conversations are not challenged in one's head, as you know, people get schizophrenic and people have psychiatric problems. And this is why we have shrinks who basically talk to us so we can talk to them what we are talking to ourselves. And it happens in communities and nations also. When nations get schizophrenic, they become Nazis because nobody is actually challenging their thinking, or because they have
right.
stifled the voices of dissent, and that actually is a sign of sickness in a society. And this is why America is America, because America entertains diversity and diversified viewpoints. So that is number one principle that I teach. And then a second is, when you are in an intercultural interaction or communication transaction, do not judge, suspend all judgments. So I got to listen to Solomon as a human being before judging him for anything that he appears to be or what he is. Same goes for you, Vicki. So the thing is, I got to listen to you, as I said, listening. Because if I start judging people, I'm going to start filtering out. I'm going to block my ears. I am going to, put lenses on my glass, on my eyes. I would no longer be able to accurately see or listen to people. So suspension of judgment. And the third and the last that I talk to people is about always engage in contextual and proactive communication. Contextual means that I got to explain to you where am I coming from. So I share with you my background and the context of the communication, and proactively anticipate your needs of communication, because that will actually, the probability of misunderstandings goes down. So these are the 3 things I teach. You don't have to go for the whole semester to learn this in my class. But the thing is, these are the 3 things I teach, and these are very, very important matters. And they are applicable at an individual life, and it is also applicable collectively, as a nation, as a group, as a country, as a world.
Sure.
So, and this is why I got involved with IPN,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very fortunate that I had to get to know such legends in our area, as June License, Roger. We have John Long. We
Right.
have. I don't want those to offend anybody whose name I forget, but Sue Tannehill. All
Sure.
these friends. They are wonderful, wonderful
Right.
friends,
Shirley
wonderful
Chan.
people that we met,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned so much from them.
Mm.
Whoever I am today, they have a lot to do with it. They have contributed to my life, in that way. So these are the three things that I teach to my students. And some of them years later, they contact me. It's wonderful. They say, we implemented this and we implemented that in our lives, and it worked out. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the greatest compliment for a teacher.
Sure. Sure. Well, it's affecting people's lives and relationships. It's
True.
so big, and they're most important relationships oftentimes. Of how do we accept ourselves, and how do we learn to be in relationship with people, and especially people who are different. And that may be
True.
people far or near to us.
Right. And this is why the people who are belonging to who are minority, especially the people who come from a majority mindset, when they
Hmm.
become a minority, they go through a transition. They realize that how it feels to be different, because when you're in a majority, you don't empathize, or you don't connect with or identify with people who are going through the adjustment periods. Now, in another thing in intercultural communication is that minority adjustment, cultural identity development skips one uh, one step compared to the majority cultural identity integration, and this is documented by the social scientist.
Hmm.
And because of that, minorities, when they are in a certain position, certain place, they behave differently. And this is a documented science. It's not me who's just saying it.
Sure.
And we have to realize that how can we make sure that that step that is skipped is bridged for those who, so they don't fall down.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, we no matter how hard we try, we're different. But at the end of the day, we are not different. We are all human beings. We get hurt. When we get hurt, we cry. We have the same blood that runs through our veins. If we get cut, we bleed. And we get a headache. We all get headaches. So at the end of the day, we're the same family. So this is a very, very important lesson to learn, to be human
So
and to be connected with humanity.
So I wonder, as we're speaking, one of the things that I feel very strongly myself is um, the the oneness, the oneness of so many of these things that look so very diverse, right? So just as you're saying, well, we're all different, we're all completely different, or except that we're all unique, but we're all not that different. Right. So we may have, and depending on how much, and at certain points they may seem very like big differences, but that so many of the basic things are the same. I feel that also about the religions, and I have always felt that, and it doesn't mean that they're not different, and it doesn't also mean, this is the other thing, I've never understood how people would think that because one is true, then the other is not true, because they don't really contradict each other. They just are different paths up the mountain, then they don't, it doesn't address, they're in it from a different time and place, each one. And so the similarities to me actually are just so beautiful in a way of affirming any of them, and affirming, another path completely as well, because it's about those values that, I mean, what the values that we shared right off the top when we talked about truth, empathy, compassion, you know, um, listening and being peaceful with each other and loving each other. That was, of course, it's basic to all of that. So I mean,
Mhm.
isn't that something that really I feel like that's sort of the 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 impetus behind the work is all of that oneness that is there that makes it an interfaith um, makes interfaith such a natural way of approaching those differences and the diversity.
I will let Solomon speak to that. I don't want to get into my lecture mode again. So
Oh,
Solomon, I'm listening to you.
It's amazing, Professor Hawk, that the three keys that you mentioned. I think that's beautiful because that's setting a right frame, or an outline of, how to be, an effective learner. I think when I joined the higher education department at Buffalo State, and I was fortunate to come across a great, department that emphasizes, a lifelong learning journey. That wherever you are, that you don't stop learning. So, as a student, as a junior, I don't think I'll ever stop learning. And the more Professor Huck and Vicky speaks, the more I'm soaking it in, because for me, it's a lot of more experience that I have to experience. As a new dad, as this stage of my career and life, I feel like I'm not yet there. But at the same time, every day I strive to be better than I was yesterday. And I think it's easier said than done. Everything that we do and try to tell people, it's mostly really trying to have them share the same beliefs, ideas, and opinions as us. But at the end of the day, we have to respect that they are going to form their own ideas, beliefs, and opinion, and we have to be okay with that. you know I think after listening, Professor Huckman he said tolerance. I think that plays a big role, because how can we tolerate others when we don't know anything about their religion or life experiences, and we automatically judge. It's not, I'm guilty of that. I catch myself judging and slipping and forming opinions that are not fact. A lot of times we have opinions that become fact, and we lose the message. So in terms of bringing diversity of religion, I think we need to really understand what's going on in the bigger picture. If we have a higher power, if we have a universe that can hold the vast amount of ideas and religious ideology, then we need to understand our own purpose and our own connection with that. Sometimes when I was growing up, I asked myself, if there are so many religions, then how do we know that ours is the right one or theirs is the right one? But that is a journey. That is what I'm exploring. As more I learn about other religions, I have friends that I went to the mosque, I did the prayers, and it humbles me to know that, wow, there's something bigger than myself, you know and that is the curiosity that fascinates me, that helps me keep on living, to know that there's something out there. I cannot call it a name, I cannot describe it, but you know the best I can do is there's something that drives me and the life I'm experiencing.
Beautiful, beautiful. And and Solomon, you said it so eloquently. This is beautifully said. This is poetry. I love poetry. All the Pakistanis, they
Shairi,
love poetry. They're
Shairi, we
all
do.
poets. And I'm sure that his laugh tells me that he loves it too.
Yes.
I'm sure he remembers. So once again, Vicky, we with the event we have on August 15th is going to be a bit of Eid celebration, but it's going to be Pakistan Day celebration. We're going to cut the cake. We're going to have costume show for the kids, fashion show for the adults. I'm planning to enjoy that day, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm inviting everyone who's listening and who is can come in Island Park, Williamsville, from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. on August 15th, which is Sunday. So we'll have a lot of fun. You have to excuse me because my evening prayer time is just slipping away.
Oh,
So if you don't mind me, can I take the leave unless you have a pressing question for me?
well, uh, I would just say certainly lifelong learning is something that we're all doing, and we have to be doing. We're never going to exhaust that. But one of the things, that deep appreciation of people following one's own path is something that we can only keep working on. So I know you've shared a lot, and you have a mission. So we should respect that. So thank you for coming. I'm sorry that we didn't get a little longer with you. So there'll be another time. So anyway,
It,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Huck.
As
no, thank you
yes,
so much
thank you.
for having me. I'm very honored, and I'm glad that through you I got to see Solomon one more time, and I'm going to drag him into this event. He got to be there,
Yes, I'm
Oh
at
he
Buffalo
and
State too.
oh
I'm
he
gonna
has to be
be
there,
I'm
of
gonna be
course.
on campus too, so I would love to meet you on campus as well.
okay, good, good. And thank
Okay,
you so much, Vicky. And
more
I
for
wish you all
us
the
to
best. I know
follow.
you do so much. And my best wishes are with you all.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
to you too.
Thank you. Take care.
Masalama.
Malik.
So we will I just need to let Richard know. And now I see one of the things I feel myself is a little bit more. When you say which is a true religion, is something I don't think about it in that way. You know, that there is one that's right and the other one that is not right.
Right. Well, it starts from the discrimination
Mm-hmm.
and exclusion within religion. You know, when we fight and argue over religion,
Mm-hmm.
and the case has been made that it was an attack based on differences, then that begs the question that what are we really fighting about? You know, when the Crusades happened, what was their motive? You know,
Right. Right. And for different people, it may have been different motives.
right,
But I'm going to say any of the motives were not really true to their religion, because all
right,
of those religions are teaching of loving and peace,
right,
right?
right.
So
So
that
it,
all
it
of it
was the
was,
message that got taken out of context, and it really took away from the message of unity. Because
hmm
for me, religion means unity. It means coexistence as well. Have you seen a lot of bumper stickers with the word coexistence?
right, right.
In
hmm
all the symbols of the religions, and for me, that's what I want to practice. The way I'm living is the way I want to see the world and
hmm
experience the world. And even for my kids, I want them to live
Right,
in a world where they're understanding the unity, more than the division. Of
right,
course, those
right.
questions, as young children have those, like I did, and I still have those questions, and it's part of my journey to really explore that through people, through
Thank you.
dialogue, through
hmm
conversation,
Right.
through self education that I must do. I'm not waiting for the book of the end of all the answers.
No, right, right, right. No, there is
There
no
is
book
no,
of that.
yes,
But it is also, to me, it's sort of about trying to be the change. So we can know. So the first is just having that as a concept, that we believe that there's, validity, everybody has their own truth, or that each, religion or each path has its own validity. Um, And I would say, you know, even that, I do believe that, although it doesn't have to mean that there aren't some things that are more true than others, or that there might be some paths that are sort of taking one off in a wrong direction.
Right,
That
right.
could also be true.
Right. Well,
So,
truth is subjective, right? I mean,
right. Oh, absolutely.
it's
But
subjective.
well, it is subjective, but this is where I think this is interesting too, is that, it's absolute, we don't want to get too stuck in everything being relative, so that
Right.
there's nothing that's absolute. There are things that are absolute, they're just beyond our comprehension.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. There
Yeah.
is something out there that,
Right. Bigger.
I'm not gonna, drive myself to find the answers. There's, so if there's a universe, then there's a multiverse, so we have to look at the frame of saying if there's,
That is
one
so
religion,
cool.
there's many religions,
Right,
and
right. Well, actually, this one, well, Swami Vivekananda
yeah,
said,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think we
Yogananda.
talked
Yeah.
about this before,
Yes.
that, he said there's 300 religions, and that's great. But when we have, at the time, it was like 5 billion, now it's 7 billion.
Right.
When we have 7 billion different religions, then that'll be much better, because
Right.
people will really be thinking, what do I really think? And not just saying, I'll take that one, you know.
Right.
And yet, I've had none. This one nun once said to me, "Well, you can't, she's hearing what I'm saying, and she's like, "Well, that's all well and good, but you can't walk down 14 streets at the same time. You know, you can't. You have to pick a route. And I said, "Well, I think I'm bushwhacking, but anyway, but
Well, if we're floating, let's say we're floating
floating. Let's
in
be floating.
space, and let's see all the stars that we can visibly see.
Sure.
And each star is a religion or some kind of land that you're going to encounter, and you're going to experience that. After you're done with that experience, you're moving on to the next. So if we're floating, then we can come across everything. But if we choose a lane on Earth where we're grounded by gravity, then we're going to be stuck to following that path. But that's just me, taking an interest in the heavens, and the
Sure.
earliest religion,
Sure.
when religion was formed, all they had was the stars and the sky. They
Hmm.
looked up to see, how do we connect? How did we come? That was the first thing. The difference between us and the animal kingdom, or the animals without reason, is that we can look up and ponder, you know, we
Hmm.
can self-reflect, whereas animals who don't have the conscience to ponder and reflect on themselves, that's what separated us. And I was taking great joy in learning and reading about that the earliest religion was the stars. They
Hmm.
had the sun and the moon. Every day you'd wake up and you'd see that, I would wake up and live, where at night, it was associated with going to sleep. So it always fascinated me because of night and day. And then when you push an hour back and forward, then that's like, okay, do we have another hour to live?
Right. No, that's very beautiful. Well, I do love to think about the sky and the stars. And I do, actually, you're making me think of, because we're getting ready for camp. So I'm thinking about camp a lot. I know your little one is way too little, but
Yeah.
we're doing Camp Peace Prince Explores the World. And so one of the things that has always intrigued me is that I heard that the distance between the stars is equivalent to the distance between our cells in our body. That
Mm,
seems to be a firm thing, that we're
right,
an
right.
actual, but that they're actually everything is loose, and that it's just an illusion that everything is so firm, or
Mm,
solid, when
right.
everything is made up of little bits of stuff, little
Yeah.
particles
Yeah,
that the
absolutely.
same distance. So wow, so we're talking now. I don't know if we're going to do it, but I talk about the universe. There's the sky, and in the indigenous people talk about the sky world, and then
Sky
there's
world.
the
Yeah.
nano world, which is the nano world, which is so
Right.
tiny in the,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Right.
also
So the
exists.
possibilities are endless. That's the thing. When you bring in, physics and, astrophysics,
Yes.
then you can really, take a step into what's it like, if we're living through, this thing called matter and energy that scientists explore and discover, and they find different avenues that has this magnetic pull of the world, and that's where you can get these little particles of nanotechnology that we have created. That amazes me, that how far we have come, just by discovery, and understanding. So, thank God for a brain, because we can really take a minute to reflect on what it is that we're living for.
And that's where we need to also bring it back to what are we living for? So that as important as all of those things are, one of the things that I think that Interfaith Peace Network and certainly this show is about, how can we, how does the various faith traditions that people have, how do we come together and bring what's very basic to those things? Because I think the basics are very similar.
Right,
And
right.
how
I
does
think
that
that's
help
where
us
it
to live?
starts.
Yeah, and how does that help us to live with each other and to create, call it heaven on earth, call it samadhi, call it just that cultural understanding and sympathy, and call it the beloved community. But
Right.
how does it help us? How does it help lead us to a world that is as, you know, good as it can be for all of the participants?
Right. So, and that's a great question. I think that's a lingering question that's going to be uh, a test of time to really understand how do we bring those pieces together. And you said it really accurately about starting from the basic, because my journey into studying religion really starts at the basic of
Hmm.
the foundation. What are the key philosophies? As Professor Hawk mentioned earlier, he built his own philosophy as a professor.
Hmm.
So if I had an opportunity to be in his class, that would be the basics for me.
Hmm.
So when he laid down three principles, I think there are a number of principles in every religion that can explain really what the foundation is. When you think about the golden rule, that is an absolute that should apply in all religions. Yet
And
we don't practice it.
And yet we don't practice it, but yet it does apply in all the religions. And in fact, I'm sure you've seen that very nice. There's a nice graphic where it's laid out in 12 maybe of the different religions. Just where it's quoted in the scriptures. So I mean, I'm going to say this actually. We're almost out of time, but I
Hmm.
know we could go. You know,
Yeah,
with
yeah. I mean,
and for quite a while on all of these things. I know one of the things I also wanted to talk about is what we can do together in the future, and also how people can get more involved. So
absolutely,
so one of
absolutely.
the things would be, well, first of all, Professor Hawk already mentioned that he has an event coming up. I don't know if you have one that you have coming up that you want to suggest for people.
Well, I'm working with the Latino community as well. We're
Sure.
we're
Uh
doing
huh.
hosting a virtual. Well, it's not going to be virtual. It's to celebrate on the opening of Latino arts and culture. It's called El Bate. That's the traditional dance from Puerto Rico that
Oh
has roots
yes,
from
yes, yes.
Africa. El
Mm-hmm.
Bate. They they
Mm-hmm.
they are
I
planning
saw
a
that.
grand opening with more spaces. So, fortunately, there are spaces in the community that can allow for learning, that can invite others to share and learn, because it is a collaboration that I'm doing with El Bate about in bringing to light the indigenous culture of the Taino history.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and that
Yes.
plays a huge part, because that has its own separate religion culture that would be great to gain an understanding of, from personal experience and from the learnings that I've done. Because even in the indigenous communities you have, they're not all the same.
No.
You
Oh
have
God, no. No.
almost
No. 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 No.
500 tribes with their own religious practices and rituals, and
Sure.
that is often gets misconstrued and taken out of context quite often, as do other religions that don't have the basic understanding that we all should get. So for me, my goal is to really collaborate into promoting manifest diversity into an educational opportunity. I have
Sure.
presentations and slideshow
Sure.
ready, almost from each continent, that I can
Right.
really break it down, especially to students and the general public. Because for me, I
Sure.
wanted, in layman terms, what it all means. Even the Quran, is translated,
Well,
in
and
many different
actually,
languages.
now we're going to go into a whole nother direction about scriptures and everything like that. I love to talk about that. But it sounds wonderful. El Bateo, people can read more about it in the Latino
The Latino
Village,
Village,
which is
yes,
online too, right?
yes, it's online, and my role with the Latino Village is more is as educational
Sure.
contributor,
Right.
because we play many different roles. Alberto, myself,
Right.
and his wife Ramona, we try to bring in more contributors and columnists that can really, spread the word out. So that's what
Sure.
we're looking.
Sure. So that is very exciting. So, and also people can join the Interfaith Peace Network. They can come. It's the first Thursday of the month, 9:30 on Zoom currently. Maybe before long we'll be getting together in person. But anyway, there's plenty to do. And meanwhile, so we've been talking peace. We've been talking peace through a faith lens, right? So it makes it very exciting. But it's always, always about the beloved community, and it's always in truth and love. So thank you so very much,
Thank you. Thank
Salman.
you.
Thank you
Thank
for,
you.
yeah, truth
Thank
and
you.
love.
Peace.
Peace. Peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Really
Vicki.
appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you for being on. Thank you for being so
thank you.
steadfast. There's lots for us to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very
Absolutely.
excited.
Hopefully this is the first of many.
Yes, lots to do. And we'll talk about the nano world or
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
and
We're,
the
we
different faith communities and different initiatives that we can do.
right, and I think that'll be important because if anybody hears this and gets the sense that we're welcoming and open, we would love to converse with them and have them be a part and give us a teachable moment. I think
And
that's really
actually,
what it comes
and
down
I
to.
want to invite you to, one of the things that we want to work on is how to write our priorities too, being, to more on caring for people on the planet and less on fighting and,
Right,
well, the
absolutely.
Fear Inc.
Yeah, yeah.
that we talked about. So
Fear
it's
Inc.
more to be, because we're going to make everything wonderful for Sophia,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes,
Yes, okay. Well,
yes.
anyway, so
Thank you so
thank you,
much,
thank
Vicky.
you.
Thank you, my
It's
friend.
great to have you here. You take good care.
I will.
Love
Thank
to
you
you
so
all.
much.
Okay,
Take
bye for
care.
now. You
Bye
too.
bye.
More to follow.
Bye, Richard. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye for now. Okay, here we go. Yes. Boy, oh boy.